Hey guys, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a knife video for you. Today we're taking a look at a new Spyderco. Once again, I'm a little behind the eight ball on this, but I do have to say a huge thank you to Southern Edge Knife Works for sending this along. And if you're watching this and you appreciate the content, go over there, check out what they've got on offer. Again, you can use my discount code SHARPSTUFF to save 15%, and perhaps they'll have something cool for you. So they did send this along. Thank you very much for doing that. And now let's take a look at this knife. So what we have here is a Wharncliffe blade with a very interesting grind. We'll talk about that very quickly. I'm not going to go into great detail, just in a first impressions. Before I get into all this stuff, I want to credit the designer. This is a cool looking knife. Whatever you think of, you know, the purpose or the design philosophy, you've got to say Kelly McCann, who designed this knife, and he's one of these, you know, ex-military special services type of guys who spends his time now, I think, instructing, you know, operators in how to survive, you know, highly dangerous situations. So kind of a cool guy. Certainly, if you spend some time watching some of his videos, I think you'll get a bit of a kick out of it. He designed this knife, so it's somewhat like the Yojimbo in that it's designed by a guy whose specialty is in combat. However, I would suggest that, like the Yojimbo, this knife is not just for, you know, defense or offensive tactical type of purposes. There's actually a broader use for this. So, and that, you know, I have to say this because the fact is that the chances of anyone ever having to use a knife in a self-defense situation are almost nil. Like, they're so low as to really not be considerable when looking at a knife to buy. It just doesn't make sense to make that your primary purpose. So because those chances are so low, you need to consider, is this also going to be a useful tool? You know, yeah, I've got potentially an edged weapon, but do I have a good cutting tool? Okay, and that's where I think I want to, you know, kind of make some suggestions with this quick first impression. So I wanted to get that out of the way first, that it's designed by an expert in combat, designed with that kind of philosophy in mind. However, I don't think that means we should just immediately dismiss this knife as, you know, well, I'm not a combat guy. I'm not going to be fighting anyone with my knife, so I don't need to worry about it. Okay. Let's do a quick rundown on the features here, and maybe I'll at least get you thinking that at the very least, I hope you'll stick around to see the full review in a month or two when I've had time to spend a little bit of, you know, to put a little bit of use on this knife. So S30V blade, Wharncliffe design, very shallow hollow grind, and a hollow grind, I just love hollow grinds because they make it's hard to mess it up. And if you designed a blade that is not going to cut very well, you can give it a hollow grind and almost get away with it. Okay, so I do really like that. And a shallow grind like this, if it was a flat grind, this would be a perfect example of a knife that wasn't going to cut very well, but give it a hollow grind and it's actually pretty darn good. Okay, phosphor bronze washers, an extra grind up here, and there's a couple of reasons for this. Let me just point this out. So this reduces the weight and also leaves a good amount of thickness here behind the tip, with the idea being that, you know, if you're using this and you've penetrated something, you've got that extra strength to keep from damaging your knife. All right, and then the grind here is primarily about weight reduction. You can see it's not super thick blade stock to begin with. We do have a compression lock and phosphor bronze washers. Again, we have another example, like a couple others that I've talked about recently, of the laminate G10 carbon fiber over G10 that Spyderco seems to be in love with, especially from their Spyderco or from their Taichung Spydercos. All right, nested liners, standoff construction, typical clip. It does have, if I can show you here, a tubed lanyard hole, which is, I mean, good. You know, I'm certainly not going to complain about it, but it's probably not the most necessary thing in the world. Fairly thick in profile, so this is going to take up a fair bit of pocket space. All right, let me now just share it quick. Actually, you know what? Let me. Wasn't planning to do this, but I think, hold on, I'm just going to pause for 1 second. Okay, sorry about that, guys, but I thought because this blade is not something we're used to seeing, that I'd grab just a little piece of cardboard. So I just cut this off a box that shipped to me recently, and I just wanted to do a little bit of cutting with this and just see how it feels so I can kind of report to you. And you know what, guys? Because this is not super thick blade stock and because it's got a hollow grind, this slices pretty well. Not to mention the tip is going to penetrate really well. So in terms of a utility cutting tool, I think this is really going to be a useful option. And much like the Yojimbo, which again was designed by Michael Janich to be a combat style blade, it's a really, really nice utility blade. And I will, by the way, I'm pretty certain that my friend Bradley has a Yojimbo, so I'll do a side-by-side comparison between these two. I think both, I'm curious about that, so I want to do it, and I think you might find some enjoyment in that. So, okay, let's go ahead and get to size and weight before we forget all about it. 8 1/8 inches overall, 3.5 inch blade, 4 3/4 inch handle, which is kind of nice. So this is not a super huge knife in terms of length. 3 3/4 grip area, okay, from here to here. And finally weighs in at 4 ounces, which I find to be pretty darn good. Now, the main thing that stands out to me about this knife that I really feel like I want to share with you guys is how well the compression lock works. This is probably the best implementation of the compression lock since the Para 2. And if I just do a quick side-by-side comparison, I know I'm getting well beyond the pale of first impressions here. Maybe I'll have to call this something else, but you can see how the Para 2 is just so quick and so accessible with that compression lock. And if I switch over to this, same deal. It's quick, it's easy, really, really nicely done compression lock on this knife. So I wish Spyderco would be consistent with this. I feel like every other compression lock knife I get, one is decent, one is terrible, some are just okay, and the Tai Chung ones especially seem to struggle. So really happy that this one is well done, and hopefully it indicates that Spyderco is going to be able to offer some better compression lock options moving forward. So what are my initial thoughts on this? Yeah, I've got to say I like it quite a bit. It's different, it's interesting. It's not just for tactical stuff, I don't think. I'm gonna spend some time with this, and I'll be able to share more with you after I get to a full review. Okay, but my first impression is, yeah, this is certainly designed to be a tactical knife, but can really do a lot of great utility stuff as well. And I've always been a fan of Wharncliffe blades for that particular reason. It's also a great expression of the compression lock, probably the best one that I've seen Spyderco offer in recent years. And otherwise, I think it's a cool design, comfortable handle, pretty decent EDC option. So there you go, guys. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks again to Southern Edge Knife Works for sending this along, and use my link in the description box to go over there, see what they've got in stock, and pick something up. I think they may still have some of these, so 15% off is a pretty good deal, I think. Again, thanks for watching. We'll talk to you soon.